Hi folks, thank you very much for joining me in another video. Today I want to talk to you briefly about the Emerson Wave feature and why you may or may not want it on your knife, and give you a little bit of clarification about some comments that I had made regarding the Wave feature in the past. Let me go ahead and tell you real quick about the two knives that you see here. The one on the top is the Emerson Mini Commander, and that has this Wave feature, which is this little hook at the spine of the blade there. And the point of the Wave feature, for those of you who don't know, I imagine most of you do, is to catch against your pocket seam as you go to withdraw the knife from your pocket. And when it catches on the edge of your pocket, the knife will actually pull itself open. It'll lock open as you take it out of your pocket. So it is essentially, the fastest method for opening a folding knife, because rather than having to use a thumb stud or an opening hole or a switchblade, a spring, or anything, the knife is already open and ready to go as soon as it's withdrawn from your pocket. So that's its purpose. And as you can see here, I've got two different knives. I've got that Mini Commander with the Wave, and then on the bottom here I've got an Emerson CQC7B. And this knife does not have the Wave feature. Now, this was not a home modification. This was purchased from Emerson that way, without that Wave. And there are a couple models in Emerson's catalog. I don't know that it's very many. I think it's just a couple that do not have the Wave, and I think that changes over the years. Some models will have it, some will not, and I don't really know the rhyme or reason to it or why all models aren't offered without it. That wasn't really the point of this video. I just want to mention that they do offer certain knives in both configurations, and I should mention, for example, this CQC7, Emerson makes it with the Wave as well, so you can buy it with or without. The reason I wanted to make this video is because a couple times in the past on recent videos I've mentioned not really caring for the Wave feature all that much. It's something that I don't use, and I had a couple comments. They weren't mean comments. They weren't nasty, or I don't think that people had any ill intent, but they sort of jokingly were asking, why bother buying an Emerson knife if you're not going to use the Wave feature? And like I said, I don't think they meant it in a bad way, but I just kind of, to me, it's almost like you're kind of selling the company a little bit short. If your main reason for purchasing an Emerson knife is to have a knife with the Wave feature, I think you're actually kind of missing out on the quality of the knives themselves. That is to say that this Mini Commander, for example, the steel that is used in here, 154 cm, which is one of my favorite steels ever, the titanium lock bar, the overall construction, this beautiful recurved blade, the grinds to it, the thickness of the blade, the overall quality and the stoutness, the toughness of the knife in general, I think are all fantastic. I think that it's a really comfortable handle. I think the jimping is really nice. It's a great design, and it has, so even if you were to take that Wave and grind it right off of there, you are still left with a fantastic knife that I think would serve you well in many, many different roles and many different tasks. Even for a self-defense or a tactical role, something I often mention, I don't carry my knives at all for that purpose, but just because you take the Wave feature away doesn't make this knife less than the model without it, other than just that one feature. You might be able to open it a little bit faster with the Wave, but I don't think that necessarily it should be your main reason. I absolutely don't think that should be your main reason for purchasing an Emerson knife. And in case in point, Emerson themselves offers some of their knives without the Wave, and I think that really speaks volumes that Emerson themselves also says, we recognize that not every customer has a need for that Wave, when some people probably would prefer their knives without it, and so they offer you a version that does not have the Wave. So I mean, the company themselves is basically telling you, hey, we still make great knives, and they're so good that even without the Wave you're still going to want them. And they're right, because guess what, here's this one right here. So it makes a lot of sense that you would want to use a knife that doesn't have it. As for my reasons why I don't prefer it, one, it does create pocket wear. I don't think that really can be argued. This little piece, time after time that catches against your seam, it puts added stress against the stitching at the edge of your pocket, and eventually it will wear your pocket faster than if it wasn't there at all. I've seen many photos. A lot of people like to post photos with pride that show their worn pocket corners because of the Wave feature catching and snagging into the pocket and wearing them down. And I don't think there's anyone that would deny that is the case. It's not really a big deal, and depending on which pants you have, the overall construction of the pants and how hard you use the Wave and how often, it may not be an issue ever for some folks. For me, it's just that was one small reason why I don't really care for it. The other reason that I don't really care for it, I guess that's one of probably three reasons in general. The second reason would be it doesn't always open all the way. And that could be my technique. It could be that I'm constantly wearing pants with the different shaped pockets at the corners. There's a number of factors that could go into that. But, you know, sometimes I'll go to, in the past I would go to open and use it, and the knife would get to about there. So it's not actually locked in place. It's almost locked in place, but not quite. And so, you know, if it wasn't going to lock all the way every time, it wasn't something that I could instinctively rely on without having to look and check. And at that point, I'm still using my thumb to open it the rest of the way. Again, I'm not saying that's going to be that way for everybody. That's just my own experience. And then finally, I didn't care for the fact that sometimes I wanted to take the knife out without popping it open immediately. And so in those cases, every once in a while it would catch a small bit and the knife would open just a small degree like that as it was coming out of my pocket. And as you can see, if you didn't want the knife to open, this goes for any knife, not just ones with a wave, but if you had a knife in your pocket and you weren't expecting it to be open until it was all the way out of your pocket, and you arrived at a situation like this, or even something closer to the handle, you know, something like that, that could be, you know, potentially disastrous. That's a recipe for, if nothing else, disappointment when the knife comes out, and potentially injury. Again, it's going to come down to technique, what pants you're wearing, how quickly you draw the knife, at what angle you draw it. It's all just different factors that I didn't want to have to think about when I would go to pull a knife from my pocket. And so I'm actually considering having this sent into Emerson. I have heard, I have not confirmed personally, but I've heard that you can send their knives in and have the wave ground off. And I know I have read accounts many times of folks that when you buy the knife initially from Emerson, you can request to have that ground off and they'll be happy to do so. So I don't know if they charge a fee for sending it back in and having it removed, but it's something I'm thinking about. You know, I'm leaving it intact for now. Typically when I take it out of my pocket, I usually just kind of hold the blade with my fingers as it comes out to ensure that that doesn't open, even if it does snag. But that's back to my point. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't buy an Emerson knife with a wave. You know, the Mini Commander right now currently, as far as I know, cannot be purchased without a wave unless you buy it from Emerson themselves. But it's not a really big deal to just get an extra little grip on the blade and remove it from your pocket, or just, in fact, just to be a little bit more cautious as it comes out of your pocket to ensure that it doesn't pop open. So if there are some of you out there on the fence and you like some of their designs, but you're like me, you're thinking, I'm not really going to use that feature, the knife itself, in spite of that, or despite that, is still fantastic. It's got great, you know, rugged, very grippy G10 handles. It's got an excellent long pocket clip that's very secure. The knife steel is excellent, the grinds are excellent, and that recurve is it's a fantastic utility knife, even outside of a self-defense or tactical role or what have you. And so I don't think that anyone should say, you know, you're dumb if you don't buy an Emerson knife, or if you buy an Emerson knife and you don't use the wave feature, or, you know, you shouldn't buy them because you're not going to use that feature. No, they're still excellent knives, and you should still buy them if you like the rest of the design. I mean, you may even come to find later on that you do like the wave feature. I might change my mind later on, you know. It just, we have these little thoughts, and at one point you have an opinion and it's very strongly geared towards not using it. Later on it may shift back the other way, so it all just depends. In the case of this knife, I was very pleased to find that the CQC7 is offered with and without the wave, and I immediately decided I wanted one without, because I had already been carrying the Mini Commander and I didn't really care for that feature, and so I went without it, and I'm very happy with it. One of the things that once you are going without the wave and you just use the thumb stud, the knife is a little bit slower to open, and in fact I find in general you can flick, see I can kind of flick it open there in one shot, but occasionally it'll only open halfway, something like that, sort of like the other one when it doesn't pop all the way with the wave. So that's something to keep in mind. But for myself, in general, I'm happy to use the thumb stud slowly to open the knife. I'm not usually in a big hurry to open it. I just like it to be able to open and close easily with one hand, and every Emerson knife that I know of will do that with no problem. So I imagine I've rambled on long enough about that, but I just wanted to clear that up so that folks that see me with these Emerson knives and they think, you know what, you're crazy, why did you buy it if you're not going to use the wave? Because they're great knives even without it. And for those of you that are kind of on the fence about it, you know, go for it. I say pick one up, try it. They hold their value really well, so if you get one home and you don't like the wave and it's driving you nuts, sell it off, and I doubt you're going to lose more than just a couple bucks on it. So that's it. Those are my thoughts anyway on the Emerson Wave feature, and I hope that clears a few things up. I hope that gives a little bit of insight to some of you who might be on the fence about one of their knives. Fantastic knives from a great company. The owner of the company, Ernest Emerson, he seems like a swell guy. I don't know him personally, but from everything I read, he's very interactive with the knife community. He listens to his customers, and I think that's probably why we have some of his knives without the wave on them, is because he's listening to what folks have to say and their suggestions, and he decided that there is a market and there is a demand for some of their knives without it. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you all again soon. Bye.